In here, and the interest all of you show in our program, and more importantly, the just commitment, the coverage that you give all year round. I know our fans really appreciate that and enjoy that. So, again, appreciate the work you put into it. I've been told we have 22 days till game week, so I guess that makes sense. And 138th year of Hawkeye football in Kinnick Stadium, so pretty significant. Obviously, not every year in this stadium, but. Great thing about new seasons, it's a new opportunity, it's a new year. That really began for us in January, but it's a new opportunity for everybody. I think that's the exciting part as we get ready to move forward. Just a couple observations about camp so far. We're 8 days into it. I think the effort has been good, pretty consistent in that regard. Like anybody probably at this point, we're not where we need to be technique-wise, execution-wise. But like the effort, and as I've been saying, pretty much on a steady basis. The leadership base on this team has been really impressive, and part of that, you get 8 guys back in January that maybe we weren't counting on. So certainly that's part of it. But the older guys are really, I think, doing a good job of setting the pace. Showing younger guys how to work, and we got a couple tiers with the football team. So that's just part of it. And, this is, to me, just really where teams kind of get shaped and get molded. It's a great time, great opportunity. Basically, the players get up in the morning and they're either heading to a meeting, they're heading to a lift, or heading to practice, and then they eat in between and find an opportunity to sleep too. So it's pretty simple, not a lot of distraction. And, if a guy will play it right and, take their day-to-day in a good way, they've really got an opportunity to grow and get better, and certainly that's important for our football team if we're going to be where we want to be when we get going here. So things haven't changed much since last time we talked in terms of the makeup of our team defensively. We're about as veteran as I can remember, and part of that, 6 guys coming back in January, coaching staff's in place, and we're pretty set there. Not a lot of change in that regard. And so far, again, the guys are off to a good start. I think guys know what to do, and it's just a matter of doing a little bit better, a little crisper. But moving forward there offensively, very different in a lot of ways. New system, new coordinator, and a couple new position changes with Tim and John Budmeyer joining, taking the receivers. So a little bit of change there. But we are a little bit more veteran than we've been, and that's, I think, encouraging and certainly going to help us. Probably as veteran up front as we've been in a couple of years, so I think that'll help a lot too. But all in all, it's just so far so good. The guys have really worked hard. I think we're gaining ground now, and we'll need every rep between now and the first game just to have a chance to be ready. But I think the guys are doing a good job there. And then special teams, it's a little bit of a mix, again with Drew Stevens back, Luke Elkin, and then Uyghur's back there returning punts, Dale Johnson returning kicks. But the punter part, that's a new new moving piece. Reese is doing a good job thus far, and certainly LeVar's done a nice job with that group. So we're up and running right now. Still a lot of work to do. And then just a couple things about the coaching staff. Phil Parker, I don't think will be out there today. I did make an appearance this morning. Sorry to report that he had a shoulder repair done yesterday. He got run into a couple weeks ago, or it feels like a couple weeks ago, about a week ago, maybe less than a week. And, long story short, I think he might have had some pre-existing damage in there, but they had to address that. So he had surgery yesterday, did show up today for practice. I'm not sure if he was on the planet or not, but he was there and watching, and he's going to be a little bit more ornery than normal probably for the next couple of weeks, but I don't think he'll be here this afternoon. We'll see tomorrow. And the biggest thing right now is we just got to keep him out of harm's way, try to keep him out of the way. So he's not doing too much. Seth Wallace, talked about his change in the out of season, and right now he'll oversee the defense, but things run pretty smoothly with or without Phil, and it'd be good to get him back here full time. And then the other announcement, just to make, Tyler Barnes has a new title. It's football chief of staff and general manager, which is kind of the vernacular, I guess, across the country now. But basically what it is, it's just a reflection of his changing job, the changing role, and I think probably the bigger picture is just the changing of college football, the way things have changed. And we still play with 11 guys. I think it still takes the same amount of guys to coach, although when we did add the extra coach a couple of years ago, that was a smart move. But coaching's still coaching. But what has changed is the world of, recruiting, and that was even a challenge 25 years ago. Pat Flaherty was our recruiting coordinator, and first year, he had a hard time getting out of the office with all the paperwork that has to be done, all the bureaucracy when it comes to recruiting. So it was pretty obvious at that point we're going to have to change our approach. We've done that, and that's going to be evolved. I never dreamt we'd have a social media department, but we do, and you have to, so I get that. It's the same thing, going back to Tyler. Tyler basically is really helpful in overseeing our entire personnel group. Used to just be recruiting, now you got NIL, you got NIL, you got portal. There's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of moving pieces, and having him in place really allows me to do some of the things I want to be doing. I think the other thing I would just mention, the recruiting calendar has changed a lot. Certainly different than 25 years ago. I would say different than 5 years ago. So with all these changes, the work that Tyler and his staff do is really critical, because it allows our coaches to actually coach the guys that we recruit to come here. And when we do recruit players, we promise them and their families that we're going to try to coach them and try to move them forward. To do that, you have to be here and you have to be present, mentally and physically. So it's really interesting how things have shifted a little bit, and I think it's a bigger challenge now than ever. So I want to give compliments to our personnel department. They're doing a good job, and it allows the coaches to do, I think, what they enjoy the most and hopefully what they do best. So just in closing, again, just new team, new time, new team, new opportunity. We are a different team than we were in April, and lots happened since then. Guys have matured, worked hard, and now the challenge is to get a little bit more cohesive, tighten down execution. We got a lot of work to do, between now and game day. But again, I think we're on a good path, and got plenty of work to do. But I like the guys we got, so I'll throw it out and see if there are any questions.
Start with Chad.
Chad minutes to go. You want to register over to your left.
Yeah, thank you.
Now that you've gotten to see Cade back around the practice field for the first time since his injury, is he looking how you need him to look at this point? Same question with Brendan Sullivan, first time you've seen him kind of after the game. So those two guys in particular, what have you noticed from them as well?
Yeah, I'll start with Brendan and just say this. I'll throw Jacob in there too. Both guys that joined us have really done a nice job, and Cade Bower the same way. He's probably a little further away, but really good prospect. Jacob's done a really nice job. You can tell he's a veteran guy. He's been around a little bit, knows how to do things, and carries himself really well. And Brendan the same way. He's done a really good job out there. For him, it is new. It started in June for him, so he's trying to catch up a little bit. And I would say the same thing with Cade, not as much mentally, but just playing wise. And grabbed him the other day and just kind of reminded him, he's missed a lot of time. He hasn't played healthy here, unfortunately, since he's been here last year, other than the first 8 days, whatever it is here before the first Saturday. So, he's doing things. He's there mentally. It's just a matter of timing and getting back used to playing again, so he can be quick and decisive with his throws, all that type of thing. So, doing a good job. Just we're not there yet. And every practice is going to be important, pretty much for everybody.
John Sethi, Cedar Rapids Gazette. You were mentioning Seth with that assistant head coach role. Aside from stepping in for Phil, how kind of do you see that role kind of playing out throughout the fall camp and through the season?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a big dramatic difference. It really is kind of more of recognition. Without going into too much detail, people were knocking on his door a little bit in the out of season. I appreciate the fact that he chose to stay here. I really do, and credit to the people that were knocking on his door. It's smart. He's a really good coach and a good person. Pretty good in every aspect of his job. So I don't see his role changing significantly. Just as a way just to acknowledge, I think, the work that he has done here.
Hey Kirk, thanks for the time today. LA Club Hawkeye Beacon. Talking a little bit more about Brendan Cade quarterback situation. I know Brendan was third on the depth chart that you released, or that was released when we were Big Ten Media Days. Would you say he's kind of moved into that second spot? Is he splitting maybe first team reps with Cade? What does that look like?
Yeah, we're 8 days into it right now, so not making any proclamations other than he's done a really good job. He's picked things up pretty quickly. Good prospect, and one advantage he has over Marco is he's played. He's been out there, I think 6 starts, if I know correctly, and played the week before us against Maryland and looked really good in that game. So I think he's a little further ahead from that regard. He has that experience, a little bit more confidence and decisiveness in what he does. I think probably the best way I can term it right now, it's like all positions, we'll make decisions here as we go along. But the room overall is a lot more competitive than it was certainly at the end of last December. And that was the goal, try to, get a room where you've got good competition. We want that at every position, and some positions are a little better than others that way.
Hi, Kirk, over here.
Oh, yeah, okay, thanks.
Scott Dodd with the Athletic.
Got these bright lights.
I wanted to ask you about your defense and kind of more holistically than narrowly this year. And that is, since 2018, we made a change to go to a cash, 4-2-5. The numbers speak for themselves as far as the growth and what the defense has been able to do. Has it surprised you that they've been so successful, especially against the run, considering you're running 2-gap and not necessarily filling every single gap with the safety and everything, just the way that they've been able to compete at the highest level in the country?
Yeah, I mean, that question actually triggers, I'm going back to 2000 against Northwestern out here. 2000, yeah, all right. They were ranked, we weren't, obviously. I think we came off a Penn State win and played them, and they had put up 54-56. I'd have to look it up against Michigan the week we were beating Penn State. And I'll never forget leaving Norm's office that night. He and I watched that film together, and we're both like, oh boy, better get a bigger boat, And I left that night, and I just said, Norm, I'm guessing we're going to match up against these guys. They were a 3-wide outfit. It was the greatest show on turf. Kind of, they took some ideas from that. And next morning, I came in, and Norm said, we're going to play our defense. And his thought was, LeVar was our outside backer, and he felt like, let's get our best 11 guys on the field and play our defense the way we know it. It worked out beautifully. So I learned a lesson. Not that I was second guessing, but it just like Norm knows what he's doing. Leave him alone. And so over time, you just keep looking at things, and we made that decision. If we can find the right guy, then we'll do that. And it takes two things, I think. You have to have the right guy to be able to play a position. Sebastian's really good at it. Been fortunate there. Cooper could do it. I got a couple guys right now that are working there, and then the other guys have to be able to do what they have to do. I think we've been lucky that we've had both, the combination of both, and it's really helped us. It's just kind of offenses have evolved typically of who we play week in and week out, and it's kind of like I mentioned with Tyler Barnes' thing. It's a whole different job than it was 20 years ago. So I think you have to look at the game that way a little bit differently too, and that's where I do chuckle a little bit about the new teams coming in. Is it going to be a big adjustment? Well, college football has always been pretty diverse, and whether the guys from the West Coast, Middle America, or East Coast, a 3-wide offense is a 3-wide offense, so is a 4-wide offense. So, not that big a deal. Kind of went on a ramble there. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Dan from Red.
Coach Harris, first off, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Dan
So,
Simpson, Sportscast Meeting. Last year, late in the regular season, you used as a Nebraska game, you used back a field goal kicker, and worked really well. You won the game on the last second kick. Who is your backup field goal kicker this year if you decide to use one for whatever reason from Drew Stevens if you use a backup field goal kicker? Thank you.
yeah, right now it's Trip Woody, and we're hoping we don't have to do that. You never want to do that, but that day I just didn't have a good vibe. Drew was struggling a little bit, and keep in mind he was a second-year guy, and I think all players, the more they've done things, the more comfortable and confident they get. He's been a whole different person this past semester. Now we're moving into a new semester, but just carrying himself a little bit differently, and I don't mind telling you, it was an item of curiosity for me just to see how he'd go through spring and now the summer, and he's kicking the ball well and kicking with confidence, so keep our fingers crossed there. Yeah.
Kirk, Tom Kager, Hawkeye Report. How are you?
Good, how about you?
Defensive line depth is a question mark coming into this. What have you seen from that group so far in terms of developing some of that depth in the game?
Yeah, I think, I mentioned 3 guys. Jeremiah Pittman inside had a good spring. He's continued to do well. So I think we have, 3 guys that we feel pretty good about there. A couple candidates for that 4th spot, and they're competing at it. And then the 2 outside guys, Maxwell Allen continues to get better, and then Brian Allen, I think, is really improved. Both of them have a lot of work to do, but they're getting a lot of work right now, and it's been good too, because flipping it over, worried about that second line, that second non-senior group, if you will, and I think they've made a real good strides. But we're getting both those groups a lot of work because it's going to benefit them. We're going to need those guys this year.
Tyler up front.
Kirk, Tyler Cashman, with the Department of Administration. As you've coached offensive line, obviously, how would you describe what you expect the standard of offensive line play to be at Iowa, and what makes you optimistic it will be there this season?
Yeah, there's a certain tempo you hope guys will play at, and there's no way to micromanage it. It's a process. It's something you got to work at. I'll flip back when I went to Cleveland. I probably got hard because there was some work to do. They made a change and went in there, and I'm thinking before I talk here a little bit, we had one veteran that was established, and outside of that, we were open to changes in a lot of spots. And long story short, we ended up settling with some younger guys, and that's probably why I got hard, because I was a college coach and didn't mind coaching guys that weren't first rounders. Went in and did that. And what I do remember distinctly, it was we were 7-2, so it was week 10. The next year, our playoff year, and that was a game where the line just started playing with the kind of tempo we were playing in Philly. They were 7-2. Why you remember stupid things like that? You do, but it was a big game, and our guys really played like they just took a step. And there was an error they had, just the way they played. They broke with a little bit more confidence, and most importantly, the ball snapped like they were humming. They were playing. And, all you do is just keep chipping away. It's like everything in football, you just keep chipping away. But you got to have the right people, and then, they just got to believe and keep pushing. And these guys have done it. We've had our share of, challenging situations. But the guys have stayed, they've hung tough. George has done a great job keeping them focused on the right things. And, just starting to see that in practice. We're starting to see them play at a little better tempo than we've had the last couple of years. And I said this in Indy, all I know about Iowa football in my 35 years, 6 years here, when our line plays good, our quarterback plays good, we have a chance. We have a chance to have a good offense, and that's pretty much true of anybody. Unless you're in one of those offenses where you don't worry about blocking guys, you better have really good skill guys. It's always good to block people. That's kind of how I was raised, I guess.
Corey, left side.
Hey, Kirk. Corey Brett from the Hawkeye Storm. I think I caught this correctly at Big Ten Media Days. You mentioned with Brendan's skill set, potentially having a package ready for him even if he doesn't win the job. Is that maybe some of the Tim Lester effect that he kind of feels utilizing, like you said earlier, your best players? Could that come into play at quarterback with Brendan and potentially with Marco's skill set?
Yeah, Tim's done a great job. Let me say that right now. He's a great person, great coach, great enthusiasm. The players respond to him, but we've had a lot of, I'd say this, we've had a lot of good people coaching here. And I just think that's good football. If you got a guy who can do something, then you're going to try to, maybe carve out a package or at least be ready. And right now, we'll just let everybody keep competing and see what happens. But whoever's in the game, hopefully you're going to steer things a little bit to accentuate what they do best. And there's some certain things that you may not want to do just because they don't do them well. So that's part of the package. But he's off to a great start. He is a good athlete. He's versatile and seems to be really poised under pressure. And he's feeling some pressure. He's getting it from the defense. So it's good to watch guys react.
Shannon, back middle.
Hey, Kirk, Shannon, Earhart, KCCI. What about this offense makes you think they're going to be better than last season?
I'll start with a couple questions ago, just talking about the line. I just think we're finally at a place maybe where we can, play at the pace we would like to play, and that's a good thing. So at least it gives you a good start. Our quarterback will make good decisions, which I'm confident we're going to be a little bit better off there. Certainly they were the last part of the season, and then you got to keep guys healthy, and they've got to play it up to their level of capability, which I think we're, again, a little bit healthier than we've been the last couple of years. Part of the fun there, but we've got the potential. We've got a couple good tight ends, good tight end room. The receiver room's young and I think promising. It's encouraging. We're not there yet by any stretch, and we've got a group of backs that are capable. So, if everybody will play and utilize the experience that they've gained, which is easier said than done sometimes, and put all together, and if we're cohesive, we'll have a chance to be okay.
Right side, Lynn.
All right, Coach Lynn here, you said like R5. So as you know, I know you don't give much thought to this, but the coaches poll was released earlier this week and had the Hawkeyes at 25th. Do you think that's a fair assessment of your team?
I have no idea. I'm pretty sure Ohio State's really good. pretty sure Georgia is without, I haven't seen a Georgia film in I don't know how many years. But, outside of that, that's what's great about college football. Nobody really knows. And, I just know this. I like the way our team's working. I think we have potential. And, ultimately what it all boils down to is what's going to happen in the 12 games that we're guaranteed. How are we going to, we're going to show up and we're going to compete and not beat ourselves. Those three things are really important. And, that stuff's under our control. So, none of us know who's going to be across the line of scrimmage, whenever September, October, November come. And, we're not sure who's going to be playing for us either. So it's just how you handle all those variables. Right now, it's just about worrying what we can do and hopefully having a good practice tomorrow.
Front row left, Noah.
Thanks so much, Ferentz. Noah Caruso, KDSN Radio. You talk about bringing that veteran experience back to this roster and coming off a successful year. You've been able to establish one of the most consistent programs, not just in the Big Ten, but in all of college football. And with that expanded playoff coming around now, it opens up a unique opportunity. Does that change the approach and the goals for this season and an expanded Big Ten that's just as competitive as ever?
Yeah, I guess the goals change a little bit because now, playoffs are a little bit more doable, if you will. But the goal is always just to, probably play as good as we can the first time we're out there, and then, it's right on down the line for all 12 of them. I will say this about the playoffs. I am excited about that. Excited is a strong word, but I'm happy about it. I thought it was not good for, not necessarily healthy for college football to go to 4. Now we all, and last year's a good example, we all argued who's 4, who's 5. Used to be we argued about 2 and 3. But at least then, it didn't, I guess my problem with what we've been doing is whenever that stupid show comes on in October, the playoff show, if you're not in that top 10 discussion, then you're irrelevant. And I just think we missed the boat in college football, me personally. And so at least now, I assume when that show comes on, they'll talk about 20 teams instead of 10 teams. And that's good, that's healthy. And I think the more teams they talk about, the better, because there's so many good stories across the country. And so that's my problem with the 4 thing, And I guess we're gonna go to 14 or 16 next. So if we're gonna open up, might as well open it up, and I'll give Tim Polisek a call, and you can tell me about how you practice during finals week and all that stuff. I'll get some tips from him. We can play 18 straight games. But hey, if we get the chance to play, nobody's gonna complain, I'll promise you.
Elliot.
Kirk, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I know you've only been practicing 8 days, right? But pretty large freshman class came in, 21, was it? Something like that, for this 2024 class. Any of them stood out so far?
Yeah, they're doing a good job. It's they're playing catch up, and that brings up another little side discussion. But they're kind of playing catch up right now, and just trying to learn. And we're giving them opportunity. We carve that into our practice schedule. We let the guys that maybe aren't working the 1s, 2s, and rotate through there. Try to get them work every day, just to if they make a mistake, but just go. Let's see what you can do. So it's been helpful. And I think we see some things. It wouldn't shock me if at the end of camp here I might have something to tell you about that. But right now, you can judge them for yourself tomorrow. That's one that's funny that came up. You just talk about the side effects of some of the things. This road we're going to be going down with the 105 roster, proposed 105 roster. We have made a living on guys that were 3-sport, 4-sport athletes. Saw Pat Anger back there. Where's Pat at? Outstanding soccer player, am I right? Only in Iowa can a guy play soccer and football, right? And it's, Mike Follett was the same way. But where I grew up, it was if you played soccer, you didn't play football. It was a fall sport. So anyway, but my point is, we've got guys who are heavyweight wrestler champions, basketball state champs, track champs, and in the new world we're entering, we're going to be negligent at our jobs if we're not trying to, not force, but really encourage guys to come out of midterm their senior year. So, when we think about all this global stuff with college football, we forget about the trickle-down effect. And to me, that ought to be part of the high school experience. I'm really torn on that. But I know this, if we don't win, then we're in trouble. So it's forget about the high school stuff, buddy. So the stuff 5 years ago we said was important, not so much now. It's just, it's one more complexity, one more little unintended consequence of this new world we're entering right now. It's kind of disappointing.
We got 4 more in queue, and then we'll wrap up. We'll start with Adam.
Adam Joey, Hawkeye Bacon, thanks a lot for your time, Kirk. You've got a pretty loaded backfield depth chart, and last season when guys sort of rode the hot hand whenever he had it. As you've seen practice go on this year, has anybody really started to stand out in that backfield, or is it just going to be a who's running the best week by week?
Yeah, I think they're all doing a good job right now. How far into this are we right now? Half hour, something like that?
Yeah.
Nobody's asked about injuries. I'll bring it up. I'll volunteer. How's that? So we got 4 or 5 guys that have been out with soft tissue injuries and stuff like that. And unfortunately, Sean's one of them. So you triggered a thought there. So we know who he is. And we got total confidence in him. But he hasn't been able to go. Hopefully, we'll get him moving here pretty quickly. But he's working through some stuff. Nothing long term. A couple of receivers out of that, but to that point, so the room got reduced by 1, and then TJ's been working receiver, and he can do both. So as we go along, we'll figure this stuff out. But it's a good group of guys. They're a really good group, and they're all doing well, and we'll just see how things play out. Yeah. Can't believe you guys haven't asked about injuries. I beat you too.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, okay. Well, happy to say, but not happy. Phil Parker's the worst of what we got.
So I guess
I'll feel good about that.
I'll follow up and go a little more detail here. First of all, Entringer, is he out this year? What's his progress?
No.
And then he's back.
Yeah, it's, one thing about medicine, and I've sat in meetings for 26 years, I'm certainly not a doctor. You can look it up, I don't have a master's, so, but you learn a lot in medicine, just sitting there and listening to smart people talk. And one thing I'm pretty sure of, everybody's different in terms of their healing capacities and pace, all that stuff. He's broken every record, so he's practicing. We're not wanting to tackle anybody or anything like that, but he's practicing and did tweak his ankle this morning, so I don't know if he'll practice tomorrow or not. Doing a really good job. We're going to try to be really smart because it takes, what I also know or have learned, when guys get cleared, it takes a while for them to get their confidence back. He's really kind of running around like there's no problem, but try to protect him from himself a little bit.
So my question was just, it seems like the past couple August, maybe I'm misremembering, we're pretty injured this time of year. Like the last couple of years, is this a healthier camp, I guess, than you've had?
Yeah, so far. And it's just, the soft tissue stuff that takes time is frustrating. But you can't change it, and I told somebody the other day, I said, I woke up at 3 in the morning, it's about 5 days ago. Just turned 69, I'm waking up at 3 in the morning thinking about hamstrings. There's something wrong with that picture. It's just not how you want to be. The golden years, right? Golden this. So, it's just, anyway. But it's part of football, unfortunately.
Scott.
Hi, Kirk, Scott Hockman again.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask you about the new opening up of analysts being able to take on field goals and kind of mixing and matching, whether it comes to recruiting. How much conversation have you had with that? Are your analysts now working with some of your position players, and what do you see for the short term and long term for that and for the Iowa Hawkeyes?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good move, and there's a guy who has been visiting here the last 4 years. Rephrase that: 2 camps, 2 springs. Veteran guy that if I had taken a job in San Diego, I looked at a job in San Diego in 1996. He was on the staff with Bobby Ross. So anyway, we've known each other for quite some time. He's come up, and my point is, I invited him to camp this year. He got hired at a university in the ACC as an analyst to come in and actually coach hands-on. I think we've got a good coaching staff. I don't think we have been deficient with the work that we do with our players. And that's what I was alluding to with the recruiting staff. As long as we have what we need there, I prefer the coaches to do the coaching. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but the guys that are here every day and the analysts that we do have, they're helping out, but they're not the primary coach. And I'm kind of a believer in, there's responsibility, there's accountability. And, if you coach a position, you coach them. And one thing in coaching, I was a line coach by trade, and I got asked by someone I worked for at one point, would I be comfortable in having a guard tackle, or his guard center coach tight end tackles? And I told the coach, I said, you're the head coach, you make the decisions. I said, my preference is I'd rather have those 5 guys. I just think it's really important that players hear a single voice, and they get consistent coaching. And then in turn, as a head coach, I like to be able to go right to the source. Hey, what are we doing here? What are we teaching? What are we what's the communication, all those kinds of things. To me, the more people get involved, the more of this stuff you got going on, or I thought I heard, and all that stuff. And I mean, it ain't that hard. There's still 11 guys out there, and it's still the same game. What is hard is doing it, like, you know, being a good tackler, good blocker, that's hard. I think we can coach it, so, you know, maybe I'm missing the opportunity here, we'll see. And we'll keep looking at it, but I wasn't eager to, like, bring in 5 new guys.
Last question, back left, Scott.
Coach, Scott Sale
Hey,
from
Scott.
KCRG, I want to ask you about Caden Legion. I've heard good things about him. How far has he come and what can he do for your team this year?
Yeah, he's always been fast, you know, and he's fearless, as you've seen. Like, you know, he has no fear out there. But, you know, as funny as it sounds, like, he's still learning to play football. And he's getting it down and, you know, doing a really nice job. He's got a great attitude, everything you're looking for in a football player. And, you know, I always say, you know, for us to be successful, we need good stories. And it'd be wonderful if this is his time to just kind of bust out and play with confidence. I would say he hasn't done that. He hasn't put the kind of confidence. That kind of sounds contradictory. He is fearless, but he doesn't, you know, confidence in what he's doing, how to do things, how to set things up. So his abilities can show a little bit more. I do think he's learning to do that, so, you know, it's been good. Yeah, it's great to have him on our team.
Great, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you guys. See you over there.
Thanks, Kirk.